Okay. Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss current affairs and gazette for today, 22nd of March 2022. Welcome all the participants. Thank you for answering these two questions. Netra, Ashish, Kriti, Kim, Babani, Amlan, all of you, welcome. Hi Niranjan, hello to you as well. So let's begin this discussion. These two questions that I have posed to you, we will discuss both the answers here in this discussion itself, right? So let's begin this conversation. What do we have in the gazette for you today are three updates on World Happiness Report. I was looking into this report, some parameters to be studied about this, and this is the reason that I asked you a question on the same, right? So what is India's stance in this happiness report? Only jump of three ranks, and this is what is India's position out of 140 countries. Second is entrance test for central universities entrance test being proposed by the UGC. The third one is Finlandization option for Ukraine. We'll understand each of these updates. This dynasty dedicated to World Water Day today. Then we have a feature news on sample registration system report by the Ministry of Home. We will understand what is this report about, what does it talk, what are the data parameters it discusses, what are the findings of this report. It was released in March itself. And image of the day on a gentleman who won one of the most prestigious awards in architecture. The first man with African descent to have won this award. Terms and concepts: BOMA technique, Ujwala effect, Humanitarian Corridors, and Doordarshan. The two editorials that we have for you today are one, Inequality surprise in pandemic, and the second one is India and Quad, complete historical perspective of the same through ORF. Today's case is on ladies from Assam. Let's begin this discussion. All right. Yes, I asked either. Good enough that you spotted this. All right, so let's begin this. The first update is World Happiness Report. What constitutes happiness? What is the important parameter for judging what is the level of happiness for anybody or everybody? So when you say happiness is judged through factors like, I'm reading out what you people have written: freedom, social equality, security like education and health benefits, good standards of living, economic well-being, good governance. All right, agreeable points. There are other people who have responded by saying income per capita, freedom, social support, quality of life, life expectancy, absence of social vices like inequality, good one. Freedom, trust, generosity, good point here. Generosity is a good point that you put because that's what United Nations also believes in. Per capita income, all right. Healthy environment, yes, getting the basic needs easily, absolutely, agreed with all these. So let's understand what United Nations has gotten at, right? So before understanding what are the parameters, let me show you the complexity of this calculation. When United Nations does these calculations, it looks at some people who are rating the countries on the, not everybody, but some people rating all these countries on various parameters like GDP per capita, social support, healthy life expectancy, generosity, perception of corruption, and freedom to make life choices. And thankfully you people have included all these points here, right? So these are not only the pointers which are dependent on oneself, right? Oneself, for example, generosity, for example, yes, depending on oneself, but also those parameters which depend on society, for example, so social support, right? Some parameters which are dependent on society and personal growth as well, healthy life index, healthy life expectancy, GDP per capita. So finances matter, health matters, freedom to make choices, right? Freedom to make choices, Article 19, that matters. Generosity, which is the completely moral perspective, and perception of corruption, that means governance indicators. So governance indicators, sociological indicators, personal indicators, health indicators, all of them matter, right? Not only that, the data was also taken from social media reports, right? Social media reports, how COVID affected people's life before and after COVID waves, right? Not only that, the report also talks of a biological basis. Biological basis means some people, because of their genes, are happier than somebody else. This is what the report speaks of, right? And then when they did draw of various countries, these graphs of how positive and negative factors affect happiness, they spoke of factors like sadness, worry, anger, stress. You would not be able to read this, but I have taken a screenshot of the report itself. So sadness, worry, anger, stress, and they have rated various continental areas on the basis of this, right? So for example, East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, CIS countries, European countries. And then when they look at supporting factors, what are the supporting factors? Donation, right? Comes in generosity, volunteering, helping a stranger. Along with that, health, life expectancy, social support, GDP per capita, freedom, generosity, perception of corruption, right? Institutional trust, right? So these are the factors which were taken in consideration while the report was being prepared. And through this, one could understand what is the level of happiness that was there in each of these countries. And you can imagine, can you tell me the name of country which proposed this happiness index? 10 years back, 2011, there was a South Asian country which proposed this index. Can you please name that country in the comment section? Please name that country, and then this is where we understand what is India's standing, what are the country's standings. So to understand the standings before anything, out of 146 countries, India stands at 136th position, and 146th country is Afghanistan itself, standing the least in happiness index, and India at 136th position, risen by three positions. Thank you very much, all of you. Amlan, Netra, Hima, Kriti, absolutely. It is Bhutan which proposed this index. So what is Bhutan standing? Anybody? Bhutan also stands somewhere, but not among the topmost countries. But yes, definitely the pathfinder for Asia, South Asia. You remember yesterday itself we discussed BBIN corridor, and in BBIN corridor, Bhutan chose to back out, saying that environmental indicators will receive a setback in case we look for economic development. All those things are reflected in World Happiness Report also. How? Because they are choosing happiness, they're choosing environment over economic development. What are the countries which are doing the best here? Finland. Finland has topped again. It had topped previously as well. And the top 5 countries: Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Switzerland, and Netherlands. In fact, 5 of these 5 countries, all of them belong to Western Europe region, right? And then we have Indian, South Asian countries: Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, all faring better. The perception of happiness is better in Pakistan and Sri Lanka than India. Imagine that. So this is where I would not like to get into deeper details of the parameters or the people who got into the creation of these parameters or how they were rated, but it was not a survey amongst a wider group of people, right? Oh yes, a lot of people writing Bhutan here, so it must be Bhutan. Yes, it is Bhutan. Bhavani, Ashish, Gopal, good evening. Kim, yes, Bhutan. Hi, Piyush, Hima, no worries, it's fine. There was a confusion from our end as well. Apologies for this. All right. So, Finland consecutively since 5 years. Thank you very much. Finland. We will understand Finland is another context. Why Finland chooses to be so happy, we'll understand a little later in the third update as well. All right. So, I would like to indicate about some indicators that have changed during the times of COVID. Right, so released by United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. All right, this is the report released. This is the 10th edition of this report. Evaluates the level of happiness on the basis of GDP, social support, personal freedom, levels of corruption, and a couple of more parameters, right? Generosity, etc. All right, freedom to choose, all those parameters. Report is written by a group of independent experts and not necessarily reflects the views of any organization, agency, or programs of United Nations. See? So there is a huge asterisk mark here, but largely it indicates of the level of happiness present at around the world, right? Russia and Ukraine at around 80th and 100th position, and this was before the war started. All right. Afghanistan worst faring. India ranking 136, fares poorly in happiness index, but I don't know if that is very much true. I don't know the level of happiness that everybody has, but I see happy people. At least through your answers, I see that you people are happy, right? Yeah. Happiness does not mean that you are not worried. I'll show that as well, right? So even if when you are happy, you might be worried. All right, so let's look at that as well. Other Asian countries: Nepal 84, Bangladesh 94, Pakistan 121, Sri Lanka 127, all better than India. That's what I wanted to indicate. Finland in the top, Denmark, Iceland, yes, we understood. All right, USA 16th, Britain 17th, France 20th. So developed world looks to be happier than the developing world. One analysis of this. What else? The parameters used: happiness, benevolence, and trust during COVID. Benevolence, generosity, giving, helping others, helping strangers, helping people we don't know, helping those people who can never come back to help us. That is benevolence. All right. For the young, life satisfaction has fallen. The satisfaction of life for young people has fallen. One of the indicators of this report. Worry and stress has risen. Right. Corrupt conception of progress and well-being. There is a subjective conception of what is progress and what is well-being. It is not as objective. Everybody might think it is very subjective to them. That's what it says. Interest in happiness and subjective well-being has risen sharply with strong public appetite. So although subjective happiness conception that has increased, nobody can say what is the reason I am happy, right? I might say I am happy, but it is so subjective that this parameter might not be the same for any of you. But on the other hand, this is during these times, worry and stress have also increased. During these times, the young life satisfaction has fallen, right? So it has risen for 60, right, with little change, but it has fallen for the younger people. Social media data to capture emotions, biological basis for happiness, right? Eastern culture gives special value to experiences of balance and harmony. See, this is where a quick reference to the Occidental and the Eastern and Western philosophy. That's how I would like to call it. The Eastern Western philosophies. The Eastern philosophies of Buddhism, Lao Tzu, right? All of them, and there are other people as well. All of them speak of going with the flow, respecting nature, right? Ecological friendship, making balance, middle path of Buddha, all of them. And this is what it says. Eastern cultures give special value to experiences of balance and harmony, right? Biological basis. Genetic studies say that there are different level of happiness between people within a country because of genetic differences, right? So this is the update from happiness report. All right. The report is hundreds of pages, I think 100 plus pages, but then this is what is the summary. If you get into the report, there are such subjective things and that will not be required for UPSC preparation at all, right? So these are the kind of graphs they have drawn, very tough for anybody to decipher, right? This is the first update. All you got to remember is some parameters, some genetic basis, the countries which are doing well, why India is not doing well, and these pointers, they're important for your essay, they're important for paper 2, paper 1, social issues, society, economy, right? All right. So this is the update, the second update. Hi Astha, hi Peace, good evening, welcome back. Yes, we will also understand Finlandization as well. Bhavani says how Pakistan and Bangladesh are ahead of India. See, Bangladesh is ahead of India in various parameters. For example, economic growth, GDP per capita, they have surpassed India this year, right? So they have their own growth story. Micro banking, right, is one of those stories. Women empowerment is one of those stories, right? Bangladesh has been called as the South Asian tiger. Just like we had Southeast Asian tigers, we have one South Asian tiger, Bangladesh, right? So this is about Bangladesh. How Pakistan is ahead, that I do not know, right? That United Nations also has said, we do not, agree to or disagree to the opinions that have been written by the various people who have given reports, all right? But then, leaving the controversies apart, this is what the report actually talks of, all right? The second update is of entrance test for central universities. Just few days back, we discussed one important update from UGC, that is the 4-year undergraduate program. This is where the UGC has also spoken about having one common entrance test for central universities. See, right now we've got around 45 central universities, 45 of central universities, Delhi University, Jammu University, Ujwala Nehru University, right, Lucknow University, many of these, Hyderabad University are central university. They are funded by the central government to a substantial amount. Now, if they are funded by central government, that means Ministry of Human Resources Development, and they are also under direct operation of University Grants Commission, then they must obey the orders of UGC. Now, UGC had introduced a scheme for examination for entrances to undergraduate courses. After 12th class, if you want to enter into graduation, you could opt for an examination that was proposed by UGC in the year 2010. But then, all the central universities did not opt for that, right? It was only voluntary. Only 14 universities opted for it, right? So this was not a successful endeavor by UGC, but now UGC has come up again with central universities entrance test again, right? And now all the 45 universities, central universities, they have to participate in this examination. What are the advantages, disadvantages? This is the question that I had asked you. What is the meaning of decentralization system of examination or centralized system of examination? See, decentralized means each state conducting their own examination, each university conducting their individual examination, or each of them having different parameters for examination. One parameter could be 12th exam marks, another parameter could be their local level examinations, or a mix of both of them, 50% of 12th class marks and 50% of what you have scored in the entrance examination. So now UGC says that we would like to introduce a uniform scheme of examination so that there is less bias, right? Less bias for students from one area to the other, right? Suppose the examination is in English medium, only English medium. There will be a bias for regional medium candidates? Absolutely. Suppose the examination is held in every central university. Lucknow holds a separate examination. Delhi holds a separate examination. So does Hyderabad. Students will have to travel to these places. So government says we will conduct a common examination for all these universities, and when they say they'll conduct a common examination, this is mandatory for all the central universities to participate in it, right? So this is what the central universities have stated right now, right? They started with Central Universities Common Entrance Test CET in 2010, not a success because it was made voluntary in 2010. Now they have come up again with the entrance test for all central universities. Now, one additional advantage that you would see here is that Delhi universities, the first cutoff, 100% marks is required in science subjects. Second cutoff, 99.9% or 99.8% is required for second cutoff as well. And then slowly and steadily it slides to 99.6 in the third cutoff list. These kind of skyrocketing cutoff marks will not be seen because the UGC will be taking, UGC and National Testing Authority Agency NTA will be conducting its own examination. It will not be considering 12th class marks. So why 12th class marks should not be considered is because CBSE has a different pattern of examination, ICSE board has got a different one, and state boards have got a different parameter for examination, and their scoring levels are also different. The scaling is not possible, right? So this is the reason that the central universities will have a separate examination conducted through national testing agencies, right? This will counter the diversity. This will have one examination, right? Now, what is the system of examination? There will be 3 papers in this. The first paper, they have not declared whether it will be a multi-day or single-day examination, but 3 papers. The first paper is for a language paper. Choose amongst 13 languages, and they will have comprehension, questions on vocabulary, synonyms, antonyms, all that in one of the papers. The second paper will be a specialized paper. For example, you know more of mathematics, accounts, science, computer science, economics, biotechnology, business studies, any of them, that will be the second paper, right? And similarly, they will also have another third paper, and the third paper constitutes of general awareness, general knowledge, current affairs, mental ability, numerical ability, all these 3. And on the basis of all this, the student will be merit list will be prepared for the student. So this is the update, a uniform system of examination for the central universities. Now it has been made mandatory for the central universities. Slowly and steadily for the private universities also it might be made apart, right? So this is the update from here. Is this not a reformation? I believe it is a reformation over the previous systems. If there are more pros, see, benefits does not necessarily mean everything is the best about it. Benefits largely mean that the advantages, they overweigh the issues, the disadvantages. This is how you should look at it, right? So this is the update from the second snapshot. Diversity in evaluation methods. This is a major backdrop, right? Students getting through with skyrocketing marks and other students are not getting the chance to enter Delhi University. This is another factor. Examination conduction at decentralized levels, right? Decentralized levels. However, they don't have to move from one city to the other, unlike the previous systems where students were opting for university level examinations, right? So this is the update. What else? NTA, National Testing Agency, has been conducting examination for JEE as well. right? Medical, and also in case these universities have technical entrances examination, engineering, so JEE marks will be taken in consideration. In case the universities have medical entrance test and NEET examination results will be considered here, right? In case the students are from a fine arts field, then a separate practical, for example, music, painting, sculpture, theater, all this practical examination could also be taken. All right, this is the update. So these are, and all this is being followed as a suggestion from the National Education Policy 2010. So these are reformatory steps that should be taken and should have been taken earlier as well for higher education. Remember, we have been speaking of higher education, 27% enrollment in the country for higher education, and we want to make it 50% by the year 2030, right? Right now, around 4 crore students in undergraduate courses, and we are looking at many more joining in undergraduate courses, right? So this is the update. Let me see if you people are writing something here. Hi Tyasha. Yes, Oriental and Occidental philosophies. Yes, Hema. Niranjan says, what is parameter of this report? Okay, I will show that to you right now. Kriti says, sir, is social media data relevant to capture emotions? Data can be manipulated and presented to fit narrative. Yes, absolutely. Because Pakistan won against India. Okay, you are right. Okay. All right. So getting back to 2 questions here, Niranjan and Kriti. Niranjan asks me the parameters. See, these are the broad parameters under which the report is calculated, is seen. GDP per capita, social support, health and life expectancy, freedom to make life choices, generosity, perception of corruption. Now, there is a possibility, I am not saying for sure, but there is a possibility that Pakistan might fall in each of these parameters far behind India. Perception of corruption, right? Perception of corruption, not corruption, perception of corruption. If it is less in Pakistan, what can we do? But possibly corruption could be more than what it is in India. GDP per capita, definitely lower than India. Social support, health, life expectancy, freedom to make life choices, definitely could be lesser than India. And generosity, I would not know much about how Pakistani people would be more generous or less generous than us. But on these parameters, on these 6 parameters, experts rate it. It is not a public level, forum where every individual is getting to rate it. And this is the reason United Nations has very clearly said. I'd like to read that part again. It says, the report is written by a group of independent experts acting in their personal capacities and not necessarily reflect the views of any organization, agency or program of United Nations. See, Kriti and Niranjan and everybody else. The point is not to look at the shortcomings of the report. In case shortcomings are required, you might as well look at it. But a happiness report and looking at the shortcomings of happiness report, that might not be asked. What could be asked is, in general, what is the level of credibility of any report? Now you see very well here, happiness report has been marked by experts and United Nations itself is not endorsing it. So this is a criticism of any report, any international report. Another one is the fact that all right, that's it. Yeah, and what you can look at, so what should we derive when this report is not going to get asked in the examination? What should we derive out of it? One important thing that one could derive out of this report is the level that India is low on happiness, right? Because of the levels of corruption. Let's not compare with Pakistan. Let's compare with the developed countries, Denmark, Finland, Norway, right? Switzerland, all these countries, right? So when we look at all those parameters, then this report might seem to be more of interesting to you. When we look at a country like Afghanistan, when we look at the South Asia region in general, we are definitely poorer, and we are also poorer on the levels of happiness. When this is so, this could be utilized in society and social issues, right? The data that you have found here, and these 6 parameters can also be utilized by you people, right? That's what I want to indicate. So see, suppose I'm not well, or anybody else is not well, and they want to throw cow dung at you. My mentor used to tell me, what if somebody wants to throw cow dung at you? What do? Do we throw cow dung back at them? No, If we throw cow dung back at them, then our hands would get dirty. In that case, what we would do is create biogas out of that cow dung. In that case, what we would do is we would create cow dung cakes out of that cow dung. So that, and we'd also use that as Jeev Mitra, right? I'm speaking of organic farming, right? Zero budget natural farming. Use that. So any data that you get, any input that you get, start using it as a tool for you to get through the examination. Whatever is utilizable, whatever is not, shun it right immediately. And what is good, you note it down. That's what is important. All right. So Kriti says, sir, would this not encourage coaching classes further? Yes, there was a report on this also, that the institutes, the coaching institutes, the top-notch coaching institute, they had already started preparing students for an examination like this. Yes, that is true. That is true. See, if the system is decentralized, there has to be a match, or there has to be a balance of centralization and decentralization. This is a very subjective question you have raised, and whether centralization should be the key or decentralization should be the key. Here, there is a mix of centralization and decentralization. Examination will be held by one body, but it will be held in various languages, 13 languages, 27 different papers. Now, as of now, if DU holds the examination separately and Hyderabad University separately, tell me this, will there be a uniformity? If I am not getting through DU, as Bhabani has clearly mentioned, kahan se aate hain aise log, 100%, 100 percentile scorers. So, and if the second best is Chennai University or Madras University, will I be able to go that distance physically to get that, participate in this examination? What are the criteria that they have? So certain level of standardization is required for a diverse country like India. And yes, when you have such a structure, pyramidal structure, there will be tendency for formation of, those entities which can help you get through coaching institutes. I think it will be especially in Asian culture, seen in the context of China and South Korea, they follow the common test pattern at Kriti. Okay. Excess stress because of it, Kriti says. Okay, nice discussion here. See, South Korea and China, they are largely a uniform culture, largely diverse terrain, but largely a uniform culture. They speak the same language. Chinese speak the same language. 85% population speaking Mandarin, the Chinese language. The religion of people is very much same. Even when living in different terrain areas, right? Most of the Chinese population lives along the coast areas. But some people living in interior areas also, they are integrated into Chinese nationality, right? But India is nation building, right? That is why we need integrative forces as well. So wherever these questions are asked to you, you people say there needs to be a balance between centralization and decentralization. And this seems to be the most optimal way out. All right. Okay. Third update is on Finlandization option for Ukraine. See, I have shown you the map of European Union quite a number of times, and NATO's map. When you see this map of Europe, here there's one country which is not opted for being a part of NATO. This is indicated through very shallow off-white color. This is Norway, and the second country here is Finland. Country next to it is Finland, and the country right next to it is Russia. So during those times of Cold War between USSR, the Soviet Union, and USA, there were two groups formed. You people know about it: NATO and Warsaw Pact. Warsaw Pact for Russia and Russian USSR and allies. And then we also had NATO for the Western countries and their allies. This is where Finland said we would not like to join either of these groups. Why? Because we don't want to get caught up in this mess of joining one entity and then facing opposition from the other. If they had joined NATO, they were just the neighbors of Soviet Union, and they would not have been happier, just like Ukraine right now is not, right? So they signed a treaty. They declared, first of all, they will not join NATO, and then they also signed a YYA treaty, very tough to pronounce. I don't know Finnish language. It's one of the toughest languages, right, to learn if you're not born there. So the word is this. If Amlan could pronounce it for us, this is the word, YYA treaty. What it actually means is Friendship, Cooperation and Mutual Assistance Treaty. right? This is where Finland and Russia said to each other that they will not impose war on each other, but Finland very much declared that we would not like to be a part of Warsaw Pact as well, right? Now, this is the solution which is being proposed for Ukraine also. Friendship, cooperation, mutual assistance treaty, and they would not like to participate with Russia either on one hand and European Union or NATO either on the other hand. They will not join either of the forces. So you can very well see the NATO got extended from west to east. I have shown this in multiple maps. Countries joining post 1999, the ones in light blue color, but Finland was never to be seen here. All right. So Finlandization of Ukraine as well is one of the proposals. As a possible solution to Russia-Ukraine war, Finlandization of Ukraine is being discussed, right? So now you've seen so much of destruction around the whole country in Ukraine, and this was not envisaged and this was not looked at by the leaders in the beginning. Why did not Zelensky look at this possibility in the beginning? Because he was expecting some aid from NATO forces. Now NATO rejected it, so he has agreed to it. That fine, we have accepted, you will not help us. Even in that case, he is trying to help, garner a peace solution with Russia, and there is not an acceptable peace solution to them. So right now they are looking at a possibility of Finlandization. See, these kind of possibilities should have been looked at, before the declaration of any war itself, right? So Finlandization of Ukraine, an idea floated earlier in 2014. Finland's strict neutrality during Cold War enshrined in 1948 treaty, YYA treaty. All right. Unlike other countries in Eastern Europe, it would not face a Soviet invasion. This treaty ensured that Russia would not invade Finland. Right. Now, to remind you all, this was also a part of the Minsk Agreement, also Minsk Accords 2014 and 2015, Minsk Accords 1 and Minsk Accord 2. This was also a part of this treaty. This was also a part of the Treaty of 1994, right? If you remember that name of the treaty, please type it down. It was there conducted in one of the European countries, and if you name this treaty, it would be great, because in this treaty, Russia had said that they would not annex Ukraine, and in fact, all the European countries, along with Russia, they would help Ukraine in case there was a warlike condition against them, right? And in lieu of this, Ukraine would dispose of its nuclear arsenal. Not only Ukraine, Kazakhstan also, and there was another country. All right. So, so this is it. Russia did have an agreement with Finland, of this sort, but then it did have such agreements with other countries also, right? Which it has broken also, right? In 1948, treaty formed the basis of Helsinki-Moscow relations until 1992. All right, Russia being an immediate neighbor of Ukraine, this could be a solution for Ukraine. See, there are pros and cons being put again. So pros of this is that Russia and Ukraine will have softer relations right now onwards, right? Not only that, the security concerns of Ukraine, they will be sorted out. The mass movement of people, there has been an internal forced displacement of people. There has been an external forced displacement of people. It is also being said that out of 4 Ukraine, one Ukrainian person would have definitely moved internally or external or moved out of the country. 1 out of 4 people, out of 4 crore people, Ukraine would have moved somewhere or the other because of this kind of onslaught by Russia, right? So Russia's security concerns, this would be sorted in that case, right? The West making it clear it would not go to war against Russia to defend Ukraine. Some experts have argued that this is the proper solution that Ukraine could adopt, right? The arguments against Finlandization is increase in Russian influence. European countries would not want it, right? And Ukraine also wanted to join NATO and European Union. This would not happen in that case. It would be a dangerous precedent for other European countries because it is possible. We have discussed all of it, all the history of it. If Ukraine is the first one, there would be other countries, right? Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, all these smaller nations. We would have Poland, we would have other countries like Romania. We have seen other countries here, like Georgia already facing this problems from Russia itself. So this would be a dangerous precedent set up by Russia, because in case European Union does not gather its forces, it would disintegrate under Russian pressure, right? So, and Ukraine is also not economically as independent as Finland is, right? Finland is a country with a lot of with a very sparse population, right? And at the absolutely polar areas, so country with tough terrain. All right, what are the questions here? Budapest Memorandum, thank you very much. Budapest, capital of Hungary. Gopal says, sir, what is Finlandization? Finlandization, just like Finland had an agreement with Soviet Union that Finland would not become a part of Warsaw Pact or NATO either. Finland would like to remain neutral to both the parties. Similarly, it is being proposed that for Ukraine, Finlandization is one of the proposals. It would not remain allied to NATO or European Union. On the other hand, it would also not merge with Russia. So everybody will be happy there, and it would be like a buffer territory for all the countries, Western countries and Eastern countries both. So Hima says, education market of China, government has to crack down last year, FDI because rising huge companies, investment, coaching classes, 100 billion. Okay, yes. Amlan Hima, Budapest Memorandum, thank you. Okay, Amlan foresees Ukraine to become Syria of Europe. I hope it doesn't. Syria has been destroyed. Anyhow, Hima speaks about the education market of China. China has initiated a policy in which it is ensuring a lot of things to integrate its education system. I had studied about this specifically in China, and I'll quickly tell you about how China is trying to make the whole system integrated. Quite a few people see China's one-party system, political system, one-party system is through Communist Party of China. And the elites of education, right, people who top the government exam, quite a few of them, they entered the Communist Party of China for good works only, for prosperous things, for good works for the country, as indicator of national prosperity, unity in the country. They become a part of Communist Party of China, and only a few people, fraction, less than 7% of the people, they are able to join this organization. So very coveted position is to have a seat in Communist Party of China. And then slowly, steadily, when they rise up the ladder, they'll be able to have some executive positions, and towards the end, become the premier as well. Now, right now, China is getting subjected to Western education, just like every other countries. Many other countries, like Japan, for example, has got its policy that they'll always treat Japanese language as the first language. Right now, in India, we see English is the prominent culture. Right, English. Every other parent wants to teach their children in English medium schools, private medium schools. China, on the other hand, says that we will definitely go ahead with a system which is more acceptable to our society. And our Chinese society accept Chinese language as the first language and the only culture that we have. Right? We will, so slowly and steadily, world around will start to learn Chinese as well. It is being said that you learn earlier, people were learning English. Yes, many of us know English. We are writing answers in English, speaking in English. Slowly and steadily, it was French, spoken in more than 50 countries as an official language around the whole world. This is the remnant of the imperialism of the last 200-300 years. And then German language. These were the prominent languages being spoken, Spanish. However, now it is said that Japanese, Chinese especially, this is the language of the future. So China, what it has done is that it has said that this Western form of education, privatization of education, this we will not accept. The private tuition will have to be shut down. Everything will be government aided, or permission has to be taken from government when to conduct private classes and not to. Now, what is China doing through this is that it is ensuring that the culture is integrated, and this is how it preserves the Communist Party of China. See, these are systems of national integration, right? It could be criticized also, right, considering that the people do not have choices, right? People cannot teach openly there in weekends, right? And what is the pretext that the government of China is giving there? That is that students should diversify, right, their education. Student do not get time for studying anything else. Oh, that is it not dependent on the student what they want to study? Is it not independence for people what they want to teach? But private education all banned in China. All right, so this is the update. This day in history dedicated to World Water Day. See, water is a very important resource, especially this was a very beautiful editorial in Hindustan Times. We have not covered it today, but then a quick summary of that editorial, some factual content only. India is home to 4% of freshwater resources. Along with that, India is also home to 16% or 18% world population, right? 50% of people depend directly on agriculture. 80% of freshwater resources are utilized in agriculture, and then around 6 to 8% utilized in industrial activities and household activities. So you can well imagine India must adopt ways in which fresh water can be conserved. 80% of fresh water goes for agriculture activities, right? So World Water Day being celebrated. March 22, World Water Day is held every year since 1993. Importance of fresh water can never be underestimated. Jal hai to jeevan hai. Remember, rejuvenation of rivers, rejuvenation of groundwater resources, all of them linked to each other. We had covered this in the feature news. So this is how you can relate to the World Water Day. Today's feature news is on sample registrations system report. We will understand what this report is about, who publishes this report, and then very important details about this report we will discuss in the feature news. So quite a few slides on this. Image of the day on this gentleman. He's from west of Africa, but then taken the citizenship of Germany, and he's won Pritzker Prize. This is the prize that is given to people and honor them in architecture, in the field of architecture. He's helped in creating, designing architectural buildings in Africa, right? He's from Burkina Faso and dual citizenship. So cultural sensitivity, bottoms up approach, community participation, social environmental justice. These are the lines on which he's created his architecture, right? So he's been awarded Pritzker Prize. Terms and concepts. The first term for today is Boma technique. Before we talk about Boma technique, let me show this to you. Have a look at this. So these are goats, and they've come here, and you can see the gates being closed one by one. See, the first level of goats, as they come in, the gates have been closed, and then second level of gates have been closed, and third levels of gates have been closed. This is how, and you can also see a helicopter roaming around, right? This helicopter also aids in movement of these animals from one place to another. What I want to share with you is that this is called as Boma technique. Boma technique of movement of animals from one place to another. They can't be, see, these are wild animals, and they have to be herded into some specific place for an activity. For example, if they are grazing at a particular place and they need to be brought back to their area of rest, this technique is used. If the prey base of the predator species has to be increased, for example, tiger species, if tiger is residing in Ranthambore, if tiger is residing at Mukundra Hill Tiger Reserves, and the prey base has to be preserved, this technique is applied so that the population gets concentrated or dispersed at a particular place. So Boma technique has been recently adopted for translocating deer from Keoladeo National Park, Rajasthan, right? From here, translocating deer from Keoladeo National Park to what place? Also being adopted in Madhya Pradesh, Boma has been put to practice for the first time in Rajasthan, Keoladeo, and translocating in an improvement of prey base in Mukundra Hill Tiger Reserves, 450 kilometers away. So this technique being utilized so that the deer can translocate themselves, move from one place to another. And once they move from one place to another, see, deer, its reproduction rate is high. It grows very fast in the local area. So once they migrate from one place to another, 450 kilometers through Boma technique, they'll be able to have a wider prey base in Mukundra Hill Tiger Reserves in Rajasthan. Okay. First update, Ujwala effect. Ujwala scheme, we have discussed Ujwala. We have discussed Ujwala part 2. The scheme was reinitiated with some benefits, some more benefits for the local people. For example, the idea was to ensure that the gas connections be given to people for them to use instead of using the wood traditional biomass method, right, through which there was indoor pollution. And this has now led to a good effect of Ujwala scheme. Ujwala effect, it is being called as, has led to lesser number of smoke causing deaths in homes. See, it says the scheme is noted to have prevented at least 1.5 lakh pollution related premature deaths in the year 2019. Yeah. So this is a great feat of Ujwala scheme. Ujwala scheme part 2 was released, where not only first gas cylinder, but along with that the gas stove was being given to people, and this was all free of cost for the people. So this has got a good nudge effect. People have been nudged to use the gas schemes instead of using the traditional fuel, that is wood, that is the traditional biomass, cow dung and cow dung cakes, and you can very well see the result, avoiding at least 1.8 million tons of particulate matter emissions. See, so resulting in lesser pollution, indoor pollution, resulting in lesser particulate matter pollution at places. LPG connections to households that were traditional fuel like wood, cow dung cakes or coal for cooking purposes. This is a good case for you, my dear friends. This is the case of how the schemes are getting affected, how they are affecting a change, right? Humanitarian corridors, you people know about this. So places like Sumy, Kharkiv, Mariupol, Kyiv, humanitarian corridors have been initiated, temporary demilitarized zone for safe transit of human persons from those places which are affected because of war, bombarded, to safer areas in the same country or a different country. Now, see, one thing to note here is that the Russian military or the people who are doing this kind of invasion, they are not against the local population, they are against the policies of the government. So they are not against Ukrainian population, and this is the reason that to aid people, these kind of corridors have been created, humanitarian corridors. But how effective are they? Maybe yes, maybe there are places where people become a part of the crossfire, right? All right, this is the update. Let me look at this content here. Hima says, sir, I also read an article on Mint that they did it because Chinese did it because they adopted 3-child policy, but young people are not very keen about it because huge cost of raising child and high education costs. Hima, could you tell me how do they relate the 3-child policy and not keenness about raising the child? Okay. Yes, I understood what you're saying, Hima. See, I agree with what you're saying. However, there is a way of interpreting this. This is one of the interpretations, that the family is not able to bear the cost of expenses of children, and that is why nationalizing the education. Agreed. This is also a perception that they have been done so that Chinese Communist Party, one party system, can be preserved in China, so that all the creamy layer population, right, the people who have studied very much, they keep on joining the Communist Party of China. They do not understand what is Western system of education, they do not understand liberalized system of education, and they become a part of the traditional Chinese society itself, right? So there are pros and cons of this as well. So it is good to understand both the sides. That is where any person will be able to create that respect for you, that you are unbiased, that you are worthy of being a civil servant. So very good, Mahima. Doordarshan has recently joined hands with Yup TV to expand its global reach. Yup TV, okay. So Doordarshan and All India Radio, they both are a part of Prasar Bharati, right? So telecasting the state's radio and TV networks with the help of OTT, over the top platform of Doordarshan has been aided with the help of Yup TV. So US, UK, Australia, people who are of Indian origin, they'll be able to view Doordarshan channels also through this, right? So this is the update here. Largest broadcasting organization in India, the first one in India, bridge between India and Indian diaspora provided through Doordarshan. All right, so this is a quick understanding of how Doordarshan expanded right from 1959 until lately. More than 90% of Indian population can receive Doordarshan networks, right, all free of cost at homes. Krishi Darshan, those programs that initiated in Doordarshan, and now later we've seen commercialization as well, right? Okay. Two editorials. The first one is on inequality surprise. So this editorial is purely on data. This editorial talks of how because of pandemic, poverty levels have increased, but inequality has reduced. Look at this. Poverty has increased, that's true, but inequality has reduced. This is because most of the population has moved downside. You can very well understand this through one of the graphs that I had shown you. Inequality, number of people who have gotten below the poverty line, that has increased, and that is where inequality has decreased, right? So this is a quick summary of this particular report. All right. India and the Quad. Now this editorial is about the history of Quad, quite a big editorial. I'll summarize this for you. Back in 2004, when there was tsunami in the month of December, these 4 countries, India, Australia, Japan and USA, these 4 countries said we'd form a core group to be able to aid the population affected by the tsunami, right? So around lakhs of people, they died in tsunami wave in 2004, and many people, they were rendered homeless in many countries along the Indian Ocean. So these 4 countries formed the core group. This is how it got initiated. Slowly and steadily, there were military exercises conducted by Singapore, right? Malabar exercises, and India was reluctant to participate in those exercises earlier, right? Then Japan also, Shinzo Abe, the ex-prime minister of Japan, he also initiated the arc of freedom and prosperity. This is what Japan would call it. Just like India has Sagar policy, security and growth of all in the region, Japan had the policy of, or has the policy of, the arc of freedom and prosperity. And they also had the Malabar exercises. So this is the roots of initiation of the Quad, right? Slowly and steadily, from 2012 to 19, China very much criticized this association, right? But then in China's criticism was also its dominance, its imposition of its regional supremacy. In 2017, we had some issues with India. In 2020, we had some other issues in India. This was the one in Bhutan, Doklam crisis, standoff. 2020, Galwan Valley clashes, and India understood that it needs to assert itself in Southeast Asia also, in Eastern Asia region. And this is when India said we will start participating actively in Malabar exercises. Not only in Malabar exercises, India also had more partnerships with Australia, with Russia, with Japan, with Singapore, with Vietnam, with Philippines. You can very well see this has been happening, no? So what are the partnerships? Not only humanitarian assistance, disaster management, relief. This is also about technology sharing. This is also about security arrangements, logistical movement, right? Humanitarian assistance, logistical movement, security drills together. And this is how India has started to show more influence in the South Asian, Southeast Asian, East Asian region. This is very much indicated through Sagar policy, through counter-terrorism tabletop exercises, where military generals of these countries, important countries in East Asia, they met, and under the aegis of India, they spoke about strategies for growth and development, right? India also has participated in diversified ways. For example, climate change, technology, supply chain resilience initiative, semiconductor manufacturing, API, pharmaceuticals, vaccine delivery, all of them. India has had a leadership in these. India has also started the initiative of expansion of 5G in the country and abroad as well, export of 5G devices. Remember, electronics export, $400 billion, the aim of India. 5G equipment is one of those. And not only India, many of the Quad countries, they have also started to refuse Chinese material, right? Not that they are bad, Huawei's material are bad, not that at all. But just that in the name of security, in the name of building an alternative system, China plus one system, they have initiated this, right? So these are the pros, right? India becoming the leader of the Quad, but there are cons as well, there are issues as well. For example, if China is one of the regional hegemons and it has had its BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, India might not be able to actively participate. Then Indian allies or neighbors, Myanmar and Iran, they are more closer to a country like China, but they are important to India as well. Iran, we import fuel from here. Myanmar, this is an important neighbor, an ally also. We are getting farther from these countries. Not only that, then there be also other associations like BRIC and SCO, right? Where China, India, Russia are participants, but they would be rendered useless when India is participating actively in Quad. So these are the issues, their advantages, right? This is how we cover an editorial like this. And yes, but then it is important for India to engage with such associations, because this is how India is able to counterbalance the effect of China, right? So this is how you can conclude. These are good words to use: counterbalance, preferred mode of engagement. See, use this. I had written this down myself. All right, so this is the editorial number 2. Amnan says India already export 10,000 crore of India Indian made iPhones. Okay, good enough. But see, Amlan, if you see the level of exports by India and compare it with what China does, China export to the tune of, I think, around 400 billions. 400, the value addition of mobile phones, especially high-end mobile phones, is far higher than India has. What India manufactures and largely exports are the simpler feature phones. And this is the reason that there can be exponential growth in India's mobile phone manufacturing technology. China manufactures and exports not only Apple, not only iPhones, but MI phones, the common ones. And lately, Apple iPhones in developed world have been replaced with what? OnePlus, whatever it is, whatever its sign is, OnePlus, right? High-end phones again also manufactured in China. So China is a far bigger leader, but then yeah, the OnePlus, China plus one factor. This is where Vietnam, Philippines, India, they get to start participating. All right. The case study for today, the last section is on the females from Assam. During the times of lockdown, they did not have work and jobs, and this is where an association, an NGO, Amrapari, it came to their relief. I'm speaking of the Char regions in Assam, and they formed an association of these ladies and asked them to build quilts, right? Handicrafts, quilts, patchwork quilts, and they also helped them sell this. This is how people were able to sail through during the tough times of COVID, when an NGO starts to help through finances, through marketing, through technology, through supplies of raw material. All we need is the working hands, and these working hands were the local population in Assam, right? So this is how you can look at any case from a local livelihood perspective. This case is that of stitching from Char region in Assam, right? So this is the case study of the day. And now we come to the conclusion. You like this initiative, you share some love on us through likes, comments and shares. We will quickly meet all of you in the next video. That is the one on feature news, that is on SRS report, important report. So if I missed out a question, please point it out in the other video. We'll get back to you. Thank you for participation.